I would start with Sunenia again and really have the question, what you say, what are the main developments you have seen in the market over the last 12 to 18 months?
I think the main thing we're seeing is that the market is getting more and more strategic in terms of where buyers will spend their time. But we are seeing more and more differentiated strategies coming to the fore in terms of where the secondaries market will spend its time. Whereas GP-led transactions 3 years ago used to be mostly tender offers or restructurings, now we see more and more asset strip sales and partial asset strip sales, continuation fund vehicles, and so on and so forth, becoming more popular in the way GPs think about secondaries. Certainly one of the big themes that has emerged in the last 12 to 18 months, as you've seen the volumes of GP-led transactions go up, as you've seen some of the big names in the industry like Warburg Pincus or BC Partners do GP-led transactions, is the fact that now other GPs, mid-market GPs that have fund sizes of 200 to 500 million euros are saying, I can actually use this market as a tool. What do I need to solve for? Do I need more time in my portfolio for the assets to mature? Do I need more capital, follow-on capital? Do I want to engineer a secondary staple? How can I use this market as a tool?
Do you also, in some cases, have to go to the GP and ask for consent? Or are the structures usually a bit different and so normally it doesn't come up because it's a higher level in the...
In our experience, some of the LPs have asked for going out to ask for consent from the GP, but that was more an LP-led kind of process because they want to make sure that all stakeholders are online. We haven't come across situations what you described where the LPA would prevent or forces us to do it. But in those processes where the LP has driven us into the consent process, our experience is that we got 100% consent from all the GPs, and some of the GPs are some of the best performing, largest, and quite difficult GPs in terms of transfers. Because of exactly that reason, they like that their LP is getting the liquidity that they seek. That's not going to change. If the LP is seeking liquidity, he's going to find it one way or the other. But equally, it allows the GP to continue to hold that relationship with him. And in this case, this is another transaction than the one I just described. The LP continues to go to the AGMs. He continues to be informed. He receives the quarterly updates. He continues to keep the upside of the whole transaction as well. So he continues to be invested in it. It's really a hybrid between a secondary sale and no liquidity at all.
Very interesting. Steve, any final comments before we move on to the next part of the panel on GP consents? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's an increasing issue in the market. I think it's just very complicated. I guess the question starts with why is somebody looking for liquidity and what is the underlying fund? So, the first problem we still have in the market is fund structures, all structures as 10 and 2. And that's madness, really. I don't know what percentage of the industry actually liquidates its funds within that time frame, but I'm going to guess it's less than 10%. Right? And the average life of a fund now is something like 14 or 15 years. So, that's the first problem. The second problem you have is vendors, for example, who are forced to exit because they're fund of funds. And that's one of the main drivers we see for people coming to us with portfolios. Now, what are they to do? They're forced into an exit position in a time frame where the GP has not delivered on the commitment that they've made. And now the GP wants to restrict what they can do about that. And I think, that's a challenge. So you've got restricted choice. You've got a list of people that the GP only wants you to sell to. You've got to test market pricing. Which one of these issues do you want to deal with first? So the next part of the equation you've got is fundraising. So if you go to your existing LP base and ask them to buy up old assets in your funds, then how does that impact your new fundraising? Does that take away from allocation to you as a manager? You know, so there's a whole different part of the equation to think about. So I don't know what it will look like in the future. I think we're at a point in the cycle at the moment where GPs feel they've got quite a lot of influence. There's a lot of capital out there looking to invest in private equity generally, and there's been some good returns. So people feel quite confident about demanding some of these things, which may have been taboo 4 or 5 years ago, outside of, you know, maybe some of the top managers who have been doing it for a long time, and they may become more taboo again. I think if your funds are young and the LP is looking to liquidate while there's still a significant amount of uncalled capital, for example, or when you're doing an aggressive rollout still within your portfolio, then you may have a different discussion to have, and you may have much more right to challenge who the new LP is and how they fit into the equation when you've done so much work to select that LP base in the first place.